So I want to first start by saying this is called Postcard Treasures. It's our first postcard meeting of 2026 for San Jose Postcard Club. And I'm very excited to have Nancy Redden share this presentation with us. And so let's enjoy it. It's going to be a great ride. Thank you, Nancy. And you can begin when you wish.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here. I hope you can hear me. And I'm going to start out. I'm just going to get underway here because I've got a lot of cards, favorite ones that I've thrown in here, and we'll just go from there. And hopefully, there'll be something here that'll interest you. The Joy of Life postcards. Okay, this card is from Euro Disney, which was Disneyland that opened over near Paris in 1992. And they sold this round card in the city of Paris outside of the park. There was a whole set of them. And they had cards inside the park as well that were for sale, obviously. And this card I found way out in the country in a junk store in Tennessee. And so what you want to do is remember, always dig around when you're in those old stores because you never know what you're going to come up with. And here we have Salvador Dali and Walt Disney. This photo was taken around 1946 when they collaborated together on a film called Destino, which was never released. And it was 17 minutes long. And it was nominated, it was actually finally released in 2003, and it won an Academy Award in 2004. So I hope to find Destino. I'd like to see what it's all about. And I found this card yet in another junk store in Felton, California. I had it on my watch list on eBay for uh, over a year, and I said, for goodness sakes, buy it. And then it was no longer available. And then I come to find it in this old crummy store. And it's the Carousel at Santa Monica. It was featured on the movie The Sting, and it is now on the National Registry of Historic Places. It was built in 1922, Philadelphia Toboggan Company. Okay, this card was sent 5 months after the sinking of the Titanic. I believe that it was probably printed before the sinking, and then they put the words on up in the left corner after the sinking. But it was sent from Times Square in New York, and the message on the back said, "Had some time." I find it very interesting, and I was very lucky to get this card. The reason I really own it is because somebody listed it under the word Titanic. And so I think a lot of the Titanic people uh, missed seeing it. Okay, here we have, there's several cards that were made by F.L. Eaglehoff, and they're all of Dubuque, Iowa. And Frederick Lewis Eaglehoff lived from 1860 to 1934, and he was a friend of mine's grandfather, great-grandfather. And he photographed Dubuque all over, and it was called F.L. Eaglehoff Dubuque in a Nutshell. And he had numerous vintage postcards depicting scenes and landmarks all over Dubuque, Iowa. And he had his own shop called Acme Art Store. And I believe he must have published these cards himself. And then here's a card of Halley's Comet in 1910. And there was hundreds of cards made of Halley's Comet, and people feared that the Halley's Comet was going to blow up the earth and stuff. And so they really had a lot of fun making cards of it. you never know what you're going to find. So on the back of this lovely image was a little message, and the message said, "Hello, can you tell that I am a good boy now? In fear of the comet, ha ha. Seen cat lately? Bye for now." Anyway, I thought it's very interesting because the comet was mentioned and the card came out also in 1910 before the comet had come through. You could see it the best through the by the naked eye in May of 1910. So backsides are fun. Here's another backside of a card. This is Dreamland in Coney Island. It was pretty much this card is a card that you can find. It's a common image, but look at the back. An advertising card for Wright's Indian Vegetable Pill Company. And you have Wright's Indian Vegetable Pills for constipation, fevers, bellicness, etc. Crossman's specific mixture for blood disorders. McMunn's elixir of opium for sleeplessness, nervous irritation, etc. Perry's Dead Shot Vermifuge for worms in the human body, and Roman Eye Balsam for weak and inflamed eyes and eyelids. So that was a real fun find when I got a hold of this card. Okay, this is the Coney Island Pavilion of Fun. It was built around 1909 and it was full of fantastic stunts and wonderful things to do. It even at one time had a carousel inside of it. It was very famous and it had the steeplechase ride, which went around the perimeter of the building. On September 21st, 1996, real estate developer Fred Trump threw a demolition party at Steeplechase Park's Pavilion of Fun. And he had champagne flowed and bikini models posed for photos, and he invited guests to purchase bricks to hurl through the stained glass funny face, the symbol of steeplechase. It was an iconic building, and the people of Coney Island wept. And here is a nice card of kids roller skating on the Million Dollar Pier in Atlantic City. I think that little girl there ought to be over here with these two. And then another Atlantic City card. In this card you see the American Vitograph. It was a motion picture studio that was founded in 1897 and headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. They made some of the very first silent films. So what I think is this is probably a theater showing the silent films. And then in the foreground, you see sand sculptures. Here is a card from Atlantic City. I just love this card. It says, "To Mama from Papa." And then it has a big hunk of tape on it. And so after you've ridden that looping ride, you can go to the beach hospital. And here we have the tent with the hospital. And now we're over in Paris, and this is a lovely watercolor postcard that I found there in 2019. And here's a card that I found at a street fair on Montmartre of a famous actress, Jane Hayding, who lived from 1859 to 1941. And it's on an undivided back postcard, which for Europe was 1904 or earlier. And here's a card of women dressed as men circa 1920s. And to me, they seem quite comfortable, like they're being themselves. And here's a card from the 1910s, which is of a vintage gay wedding. The cakewalk. The cakewalk was created by African Americans. There's all kinds of cakewalk cards, There was ones of animals doing the cakewalk, all kinds of people doing the cakewalk. This card is one of a 12 card series by Raphael Tuck. And then here you have the cakewalk in Coney Island. And there it is there. And this is what I found out about it. Step onto the swaying floor of 1911 Coney Island, where the cakewalk ride turned balance into entertainment. Inspired by the cakewalk dance, this Luna Park favorite invited guests to navigate tilting platforms and shifting walkways beneath ornate arches and flickering signs. But while its charm lingers in sepia-tone snapshots, in today's era, a ride like this would face major hurdles: modern safety codes, liability laws, and accessibility standards, which demand far more than slapstick fun. The cakewalk is a nostalgic reminder that the thrill once came from simply trying to stay on your feet. Okay, here we have a chrome of it's kind of an oddball card, but it's fun. This is Little Jack Farmer. And Little Jack Farmer was the head waiter at Foster's Restaurant in Kershaw, South Carolina. He was 4 foot tall, 31 at the time this card was made, and he weighed 60 pounds, and he had worked there for 15 years already. Okay, here we have a roadside attraction called the Mystery of the Mojave Desert, the Thing. And they'll tell you a little bit when you look it up, but it was full of just little oddities and little things behind glass to look at. I think it's one of those things that you're driving past it and you scream for your parents to stop and they don't. And then you'll always wonder what was in there. Okay, here we have a sign announcing Hondo, Texas, which was near San Antonio and Austin. And it says here, "This is God's country. Please don't drive through it like hell." And then hopping over here to Missoula, Montana, until 1999, you could drive in Montana like hell because there was no speed limit until 1999. And so here we have, anyway, The Wilma, starring James Garner on the marquee in The Art of Love, circa 1965. Here's a card, an old real photo card from my hometown. This was the Del Mar Theater in San Leandro, California. And the Del Mar was built in 1941 by a father and son who lived locally. And it's long gone now, the theater. So postcards can really take you back in time and remind you of things. I was so happy when I found this card. This is the Murphy's Hotel, which was known as the Queen of the Sierra since 1856. It was centrally located in the California Gold Country near the town of Angels Camp. And I got to stay there in 1977 before it was renovated. Okay. And on to another gold uh, country card. This is Coloma, California, where gold was discovered. You see James Marshall in the center there, and that's his monument to the left and his home to the right. And he discovered gold on the South Fork of the American River in January 1848. And unfortunately, though, he blabbed and word got out, and that started the big gold rush, which changed the history of California. And so across from his cabin was this wonderful Catholic church. And when I was a child, I got to romp around at that church. And my mother, as a child, did so as well and said she got to ring the bell that you see up in the tower there. And our my great Aunt Zelma was the first postmaster, female postmaster of Coloma, California. And then down the road a piece from there, still in Coloma on Highway 49, is the Sierra Nevada House, which was a replica of an old saloon and boarding place from the 1800s with the same name. It was located near Mount Murphy above the American River, and the building was destroyed in 2015, so it's no longer there. And if you were lucky, which I was, we got to go to the ice cream parlor inside the Sierra Nevada. And here you see two little kids having a Mount Murphy sundae. I never had a Mount Murphy, but it looks like it's bigger than their heads. And now moving on to more southern California, this is San Simeon, and here's the famous Hearst Castle. And this is the largest postcard that I own. It's as big as a placemat. I feel like I should laminate it. And here's the back side. You can see that it's 14 by 11. And I've often thought about putting it through the mail, though I don't think I dare. And here's a nice hello from a couple of old friends, Pam Dauber and Robin Williams, Mork and Mindy. Two cards of early commercial air travel. I flew myself before jets were on the scene. The planes that I flew in, they were four-engine planes and a couple of two-engine planes at one time. They had comfortable seats, blankets, pillows, plenty of room, meals, magazines, and barf bags. And here we are in California in wine country, where there's a card of some people taking a mud bath. And I just wonder what the technician is doing with her hand, maybe feeling the temperature. Okay, I'm going to change the scene here. This is a card I got in Paris. I was just absolutely drawn to it. I did interpret what it said up in the corner, but it kind of didn't make any sense to me. So I decided to leave that out. But this is totally one of my favorite cards. It can tell a lot of stories. Another card I have of African American Union soldiers. The same day this picture was made, there was also another photograph made of the same people. And here's a card I went looking for. This is the destroyer USS Farragut. It was in the Coral Sea Battle, May 1942. My father was on it during the battle. He supplied ammo to the guns. He described that the ship was practically on its side as he crawled across the deck to grab the ammo before it went overboard into the sea. Japanese Japanese planes were bombing all over. My father witnessed the aircraft carriers Yorktown get hit and the Lexington sink. We didn't get to hear that story too often, but once in a while. I skipped over the Korean War, but which I had uncles that fought in. Here we are at the Vietnam. This card was printed early on during the war, October 1966. It was the courtesy of the Tidings, a group of mothers of servicemen from Los Angeles. What I find profound about this card is the World War II guys came home to a proud nation who lovingly embraced them, whereas the Vietnam veterans did not. And yet, our country still hurt the World War II guys by sending their children to fight and die in an unpopular and unjust war. If you want to really know a great story told through postcards of the Vietnam War, tune in to Lauren Thor's presentation of the Vietnam War through postcards. You'll know more about it than you ever would have believed. It's very thorough. And if you know nothing about that war, her presentation would be an excellent way to find out. And here's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., one of my heroes of my entire life, and his birthday is tomorrow. He would have been 97 years old. We celebrate it on a Monday, next Monday, but his real true day is tomorrow, the 15th. Now, Alameda, California. I grew up in Alameda, California, and this was how we got to Oakland. We went through the Posey Tube, circa 1928. It's the oldest immersed tube vehicular tunnel in the world. And I probably have gone through it 1,000 times, especially being that I still live in the Bay Area. And when I was a child, this is inside the tube, and I used to have all these nightmares. I still might have one every once in a while of being stuck in the tube or being made to walk through the tube to try to get home. And there was all kinds of scary things in the tube. And so it's kind of a interesting place for me to go, and I still go there. Okay, and so that'll take us over to some amusement park cards. Here we have the Devil's Gorge, which was in a place called White City in Chicago. And here's a couple of facades, and it's of the same ride. They just painted it red later on. The Auto Racers. This is cars on a roller coaster track. I always found this card very interesting. Cars on a track. This is in Philadelphia, this park. And then here we have what looks like a touring car on some track. And this is in Palisades Park, New Jersey. And then here we have a ship on on some track. The Death Trap Loop. And see this guy up here, he's about to go down this chute and through this loop while all these people watch, possibly on some skis. They have those around in several amusement parks. And here we have the Razzle Dazzle. And they had one of these inside the Pavilion of Fun at Steeplechase Park. And they were dotted around in different parks and places. But here you see that it's run by people. They were the ones that made it move around and stuff. And what I find really odd is there's no place to hold on. And everybody's just kind of hanging on to each other. You can see some video of this if you look up Coney Island, some old video. Okay, Wonderland Park in Revere Beach, Massachusetts. The Hellgate is a boat ride based on Dante's Inferno. Hellgate featured a whirlpool lit by flames where boats seemed to suddenly disappear as if sucked down into the depths of hell, down into the underworld. At the end, they were confronted with a huge satanic majesty. Then they were shot into the light and thereby saved. Okay, Fatal Wedding. This was a show where a young bride and groom walked behind a screen only to be transformed into skeletons based on an Egyptian legend, and then they were served a sumptuous wedding feast. And here we have at Revere Beach the eruption of Vesuvius. This was a volcano out on the beach, and it every night during the 1906 carnival, it erupted with smoke, lights, lava, and it showered picture postcards down onto the spectators. And here's what just maybe one of those postcards. And I find the facades, especially the old ones in amusement parks, very macabre. This was the Derby Racer coaster. It had two tracks side by side. Early coasters like this one caused numerous deaths and grave injuries. And if you see this guy, um, you may have wanted to heed his warning and not got on this coaster. Okay, and here was Bluebeard's Palace, and this was a fun house. The floors, walls, and ceilings were all contorted. It was described as going from one thrilling nightmare to another and coming out exhausted. Or you could just skip the whole thing and have some frozen custard. Okay, the Lightning. Okay, the notorious attraction, the Lightning, a Harry Traver roller coaster, was one of three giant, what they called giant cyclone safety coasters, better known as the Terrible Trio. There was one, this one was the one that was the shortest lived, only 6 years. Um, the first day it opened, a woman was thrown off and she died, and the ride shut down while workers walked the 4,000 feet track. And then it reopened 4 hours with 4 hours waits in line. The coaster was in operation for 6 years before it was torn down. There were two others. One was in Palisades Park in New Jersey, and the other was in Crystal Beach in Canada near Buffalo, New York. Okay. And here we have some more Revere Beach. And this building was the Nautical Gardens, but it was also had contained the pit. The building had a ballroom on the second floor, and then the fun house, which was the pit, was partially on the first floor and in the basement. It was known as the most unique fun house in the nation. And I shall show you some cards of it. There's probably about 10 of the cards in this series. What fun they used to have. And here we are in a modern day pastime for thrills. This card was purchased in a supermarket in Malibu, California, when marijuana was still illegal. It is described on the backside as California agriculture. And then on to Tower Records. Tower Records used to give out cards, and they also gave out a calendar every year that was pretty fantastic. Miss Tower Records. Okay. As the auditorium at Asbury Park in New Jersey, it was built in 1928, and if you check the marquee, you can see who's playing, and it was the Doors. And here we have the Doors. And the Doors met up and established their group while living in and around Venice, California. One of my very favorite cards. I love to see a card that has a postcards on a postcard. And this is the Bowery or Promenade in Venice, California, probably around 1910. This card is an aerial view that shows where Venice was. And you can see here the canals of Venice is right there. There's downtown Los Angeles. Santa Monica is over here. And then here's the pier that had many attractions. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the canals. Okay, first here's three bathers out on the lagoon near the canals in Venice, and they called it Venice of America. Okay, the Cosmos Club. I'll give you a little background. Albert Abbott Kenny was the founder of Venice of America. He's the one that mapped it out and decided where the canals were going to go. He built a bunkhouse in 1905 right here for the laborers who came mostly from Louisiana to dig the canals and make the whole scene. After it all came to fruition in 1908, Mr. Kenny rebuilt the bunkhouse into a fancy clubhouse and named it the Cosmos Club. It was a cultural center with several organizations meeting there. I read in one article that the National Geographic Society was established at the Cosmos Club. When Mr. Kenny married his second wife, they wanted to have an opulent home, and so the Cosmos Club was transformed into their personal residence. In 1916, they had renovated the whole thing and they moved in. Um, Mr. Kenny unfortunately died in 1920, and his wife died soon thereafter. But in 1926, the home was bequeathed to Kenny's best friend, Irving Tabor. Now, Irving Tabor, because of his race, he was not allowed to live in Venice. So what he did is he just picked up the house, he broke it into three pieces, and he moved it a half a mile away to where it stands today. And it must have been quite a feat to move that house through those canals and so forth. And so here it was, and they named it the Kenny Tabor House. And here it was in its new location, is in its new location. Mr. Irving lived there until he passed away, and then his daughter did the same, after which it was purchased in 2003 by Nora and Michael Grizel, who wanted an original craftsman house. They bought it and brought it back to its original state when Mr. Kenny lived there, and in 1908 it was granted and became a historical cultural monument in the city of Los Angeles. And this is what it looks like now. I took this picture about a year ago. It was really fun getting to go find that house. It was very exciting. Okay, does anybody remember searchlights? They were sure fun. You always wanted to, when you were a kid, you'd see this big light soaring through the sky and you wanted to know where it originated from. That's why I love this card. And then here's another one with another searchlight in it at an amusement park. Okay, now here's a roller coaster picture card. And this one is in Agawam, Massachusetts at Riverside Park. And you can see that the gal in the car is practically standing up. No one's in the center car's seats, and that's because these are experienced riders. And also, I can give you a little tip. If you really want a smoother ride, don't sit on the car that's sitting on the wheels. And I really love this first drop card as well. Because you notice here's three people sitting in the front seat, and then you go back, and here's a guy that's got a little kid on his lap. I mean, when would you ever see this well, you would never see it today. But anyway, I just think this card is a scream. And here's the beautiful Giant Dipper roller coaster that's in Santa Cruz, California, still standing and working today. It was built in 1924 by Arthur Loof, who is the son of the famous carousel builder Charles Loof. And there's also Charles Loof's carousel is also at the boardwalk. Here's a close-up of a train. That's the second train that's on the Giant Dipper. And for many reasons, this is probably my most favorite postcard of all the postcards I own. This is the Lupo plane at the Pike in Long Beach, California. It's a very rare card. I'd never seen it before, and all of a sudden it showed up on eBay. It was on Buy It Now, and I was so nervous that I wouldn't get my hand on the button before somebody else would get it before me. Anyway, the Lupo plane was built by Lee Irely of Irely Aircraft Company in Salem, Oregon, and it he built it in 1933. And they had Lupo planes in parks and carnivals throughout the United States and Europe. Okay, this card kind of represents crazy things I've done in my life. This is a shuttle loop coaster, probably one of the very first ones. It was at Marriott's Great America in Santa Clara here, not far from where I live. And it was while I was waiting in line, it went down and it was kind of broken for a while until they brought it back up again. But you could go from zero to 60 in 3 seconds, and then you'd go through the loop. And it was the shuttles were kind of like those ones they had on aircraft carriers that got the plane off the ship. All right, the Aero Coaster. It was in existence from 1928 to 1957. It was located at a park, Rye Playland, New York. That's where the movie Big shot some scenes. And I read that this card was thought by many as this roller coaster was thought by many to be a masterpiece and to be the greatest coaster ever built. The Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt in Coney Island. It was in operation from 1925 to 1982. It never got as much admiration as the Cyclone. It sat dormant for years after it closed in 1982, and it was demolished in the year 2000. I met some friends in the roller coaster club who were able to ride it around 1980, and they said there were mushrooms growing on the wood. Anyway, I'm very grateful to have this card because it's a very difficult card to obtain. And then last but not least of the roller coasters, here we have the Texas Cyclone. Um, let's see, it was modeled after the Coney Island Cyclone of New York, except they made it a little steeper and higher. Um, it ran from 1976 to 2005 and was demolished in 2006 along with the entire amusement park. Um, I wrote it and it scared the pea diddle out of me. I mean, it was one rowdy coaster. Okay, here's three lenticular cards of Star Wars. These cards, I wish you could see them in person because you feel like when you're holding them, you can put your finger right in them. They're such cool cards. Okay. Now, just a little brief here's San Luis Obispo, the Madonna Inn in California. It opened in 1958 and it had 110 uniquely themed rooms. And when you heard about it, you got really excited, like it was going to be this really cool place. And here's a sample of what some of the rooms were like. They're changed a little bit now because of, hotel regulations, but they're basically the same. They come in green, blue, pink, yellow, and brown, and so I've got them in my postcard album according to color. I'm going to end this with a few cards of San Francisco. Okay, since I grew up in Alameda, I could take the ferry over to San Francisco across the bay, and they used to give out postcards. And here's a shot of the cable car line on California Street. And sometimes the backsides of cards are the best. And here's a really great one. Unfortunately, I don't know what the other side looks like, but I don't think it mattered, so I didn't shoot it. And here's a jumbo, a 6x9 card of Cost Plus down in Fisherman's Wharf. And it's now known, whoops, it's now known as the World Market, and it's still in existence. The stores are today. Great stores too. I really like them. Uh, this was a local TV station in the Bay Area, well-loved TV station, had great stuff. And you could get your dog on the show to advertise the TV station. Anyways, TV 20. And then here we have a lenticular card of the old gingerbread cliff house, which was built in 1896. It was the second cliff house to be there. It burned down in 1907, but you see there's the beach there. It was just up from the beach and Seal Rock was beyond. And it was called Ocean Beach, and also it was along the Great Highway. And then we're going to jump over here to Burning Man. I embellished this slide a little bit. The first Burning Man was set on fire at Ocean Beach and on the Great Highway by a man named David Warren, who ran the giant camera obscura at the Cliff House. And here is the giant camera obscura. And what was wonderful is when you went inside, there was this big shallow dish, and you could look in the dish and you'd see the people outside, and it would go around in a circle, and you would see Seal Rock and just everything that was outside you'd see on the dish inside, because it had a 380-degree camera at the top. So that's what cameras obscuras are all about. Oh, and then one day I was driving out to the beach, my favorite place in the world, and I came around the bend, and somebody had painted the cliff house blue and with big waves around the top. And I remember I practically screamed because it was unsightly in a way. But anyway, it was blue for a couple of years, and they painted the giant camera, as you can see down here on the left, they painted it yellow. And anyway, it was fun and interesting. And to the right of, for years and years, to the right of the Cliff House was Sutro Baths. And Sutro Baths were created in 1894. And this is a real photo of a new facade. The old entrance there is on your lower right, but the new entrance, this one was put up in 1934, and they changed it to a tropical motif. And they made several modifications inside and out. And then in the 1950s, this is what it looked like when I went there. There were no baths anymore. They made a giant ice rink. And but the oddities, a lot of the oddities were gone, but some of them were still there. And the entire structure caught fire and burned down in June of 1966. Here's a great colorful old card of Chutes, one of the Chutes parks in San Francisco. San Francisco had 4 Shoot the Chutes parks. And here we have an artist's rendering of the cable car going down to the water's edge. You can see Alcatraz in the middle, and that's the cannery on the left, on the right side. And then very close by, as you come down the hill, there's the Buena Vista. The Buena Vista was the most famous place in San Francisco to get an Irish coffee. It was located at the end of the cable the Hyde Street cable car line near the Cannery and Ghirardelli Square. It opened in 1916 and it introduced Irish coffee in 1952, and it's still going strong today. And here you see a postcard of the inside of it, and there's people in there having their Irish coffees. The Villa Roma Motor Hotel in Fisherman's Wharf was there from 1962 to sometime in the 1990s. I remember driving past it, and I must say that if you took a room here, you were probably expected to keep your lights on and your drapes open, because that it always looked like that. And here we have the Franciscan restaurant, which opened in the late 1950s, and it's still open today. And you see Alcatraz in the background. And this card is more interesting than it appears, because here's people eating inside the Franciscan restaurant. But if you look off to your left out the window, you'll see that there is Alcatraz and it's on fire. The American Indians occupied Alcatraz from 1969 to 1971, and the fire took place June 2nd, 1971, which took down several old buildings, but no one was hurt. Okay. And here's a nightcap of the city. The end.
Wow, thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you. I mean, I'm sure everyone really feels like this, and this presentation truly lived up to the title of Postcard Treasures, and you really, really did a great job, and it's just an amazing set of postcards you shared. This was so phenomenal. Before I open it up, I just want to say that, boy, that tidal wave, I rode that tidal wave card. I can't believe you had the tidal wave card. That was a great roller coaster. I was riding that in the 80s. That's a major card. I want to know more about Zelma, first female postmaster. That's an interesting story you have, family member. And then the Delmar Theater, if everyone noticed, that there is a photography studio next door and the little
Hmm.
picture. That was cool. So that was something to think about for Carl. Yeah, that was interesting. And then the Cars on Track is still popular with the Cars ride at Disneyland. There's still cars on tracks. But anyone have anything they'd like to say to Nancy? Thank you again, Nancy. It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah. My pleasure.
I wanted to ask the very first card you showed was from Disneyland in Paris, and was the round card, was it actually die cut and so it's round?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And you said it was part of a set of round cards?
Well, there were several of them. There were
Great.
several of them. I might have gotten almost all of them. Yeah. They're all character cards and they were above, uh, they were showing landmarks in Paris.
Okay. Would they have been like 4 inches across, or five, or
Four. I'd say they
four?
were four.
Okay.
Maybe five. Maybe
Yeah.
five. They're about
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
hmm
Thank you.
hmm
And Dawn,
That was remarkable, eclectic show. I enjoyed it very much. I just read, though, that the Franciscan Hotel in San Francisco has closed. That was just in the newspaper a few days ago.
Which one?
The restaurant, Joe?
Yes.
yeah,
Don? Yeah, the restaurant?
And also the Battle of the Coral Sea, you did mention, was a terribly important battle that was the first time we really got a hold of help to start to destroy the Japanese Navy.
Yeah, it was pretty pivotal. I met a veteran one time that told me that it helped save his life. He was a Marine and he was going over there and he said that battle really was remarkable and it was one month before Midway, which I think we won that one. Yeah.
What do you mean Midway? The conquering?
Oh, the Battle of Midway.
Oh, no, I think it
Yeah.
was later than that. It was just before the takeover of the Philippines, I think.
Midway was in June and Coral Sea was in May. I'm not a great historian on that
Okay, so
stuff,
I'm
though.
not
You
sure.
may know more.
Anyway,
Yeah.
very significant battle. Yes, it's an interesting picture.
And Lynn shared in the comments very fun set of cards, and you had interesting things to say about each one. I agree. Very
Thanks.
nice. You
Thank you.
gave so much on this presentation.
It was fun watching my childhood flash before my eyes. Thanks for sharing so much of our childhood and all of the memories from growing up, sis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Diana,
Yeah. I was going to
which
say
one,
our grade.
Diana?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
What?
which
What?
one, Diana, really connected with you the most? Which
Uh,
one really connected?
Well, the Coloma pictures, you were going to ask about Aunt Zelma. We spent a lot of summers up there because our mother spent her childhood summers up there. Gramps lived up there, her grandpa. And uh it's of course changed so much now, but it's just feels like we're a part of the earth up there. I still have rocks from there. So
Wow.
yeah.
but then just looking at the Farragut,
Beautiful.
talking about that. I've never
Beautiful.
really seen a good picture of it. I didn't know Nancy had that card. So, there's just a lot of memorable things and important things. And that tube, oh my goodness, the Posey tube. They had to build two of them. You may not know. They have two of them now. One for two ways of traffic, because there were so many accidents with people coming through with those two lanes, because the Naval Air Station is there. Come on, you've got the people going back. Anyway,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it was
I
it
still
was a
go to the
wonderful
tube. Yeah,
collection.
Don.
I have a lot of San Francisco cards, having been born there, but I was very impressed with the key system postcard that you had. I thought that was quite unique. I've never seen one before, the key system that covered all the East Bay and brought the traffic into San Francisco over the bridge.
Yeah, well, you never know where you're going to get a card. I mean, I got one on the ferry boat, or you might find one get a card if you like it. That would be my advice. Even if it's not your theme, if you really like it.
If you can find
know.
an interesting card, grab it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you give so much in this presentation and show so much that that it's a variety, and that's what's cool about it. It's just you give a variety in a presentation, and you cut in and out of all of them really nicely. And that's
Yeah, well,
really
there
cool.
was so much more to some of it. I mean, Coney Island, I could go on, and Venice, and the story about Abbot Kinney and Irving Tabor. That's an incredible story. Yeah.
You didn't have the miniature train in Venice. That's a good card I've got.
Oh, I have a card of that. I've got a bunch of Venice because there was this guy that had cards, Jeffrey Moreau, and he donated them to the Railroad Museum, and then a couple people in the San Francisco Club brought them in and sold them to us at a very friendly price, and they were like a whole bunch of Venice or a whole bunch of the Santa Cruz Mountains. I mean, he just had this enormous postcard collection. If you ever look on the backs, if you ever see Jeffrey Moreau stamped on the back, he stamped the back of every one of his cards. If some dealer has it for over $10, they probably got it for 20 cents.
I loved your Cost Plus card because we had the most fun shopping in Cost Plus, and then all the exotic things from all over the world, and for reasonable prices. So you could just go in there, and if you didn't have a lot of money, you could still have a lot of fun and come out with something really fun. And I found a postcard of the co-op, the Berkeley co-ops, and that was something that meant a lot to me because my parents were some of the original members, and I remember, shopping there as a kid and everything. So it's neat to find things like that, even if they're advertising cards, they bring back memories of, things you used to do. So a lot of fun.
I still use a hibachi that was bought at Cost Plus in 1969. And it's kind of cool. Now it's world market. And I just, a couple of Christmases ago, I bought my wife like a robe there, that was from Tahiti or something, it's still going.
Exactly.
Fun.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of, yeah, it's a great place. Still is, yeah.
On that roller coaster one, what's the reason that nobody was sitting in the center of the car, only in the front and the back?
Is Mike still here? I could have him say,
The expert.
comment on that. Well, people that are ride coasters a lot, the biggest thrills are in the front and the back. And you can enjoy either or. I prefer the front, but because the back can really whip you around. I sat in the back on that Texas Cyclone, and the seat belt was shredded. It was like, why did they even have a seat belt? Because it just was in shreds. That put the fear in me, but I got on anyway.
Let's see.
Well, on the Texas Cyclone, I accidentally put the seatbelt too tight. So the kid groaned in pain. The one who was riding next to me. And then at the end of the ride, he thanked me for pulling the seatbelt that tight. Yeah, the Texas Cyclone was pretty special.
It
Yeah.
was treacherous.
One ride in the back seat and you had nice bruises on your legs. Yeah. That was really a terrifying ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Fun though.
Made the Santa Cruz Dipper feel like a snail.
Yeah.
That's how good it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say that the Santa Cruz Dipper, Mike and I, we owned a car from it for a really long time. When they changed the rolling stock to new trains, Mike and I bought a car together. And we had it for years and years, and then we donated it to a museum, Playland Not at the Beach. And then when Playland Not at the Beach liquidated, Santa Cruz Beach and Boardwalk took it back. So our car went full circle.
Patrick?
Yeah, yep. I just that the what's the one at Great America, the
Tidal Wave?
Tidal Wave. That brought back a memory
Yep.
all of a sudden. And I think I was there the first week or something when it came on, and I was pretty young and stupid. We went on the log ride, I think, first, and then we had gone on it, I think, and then we went on the log ride, and then we went on it when it was totally cold, and there was a huge line. So I remember the neon lights or whatever, and it would blink, 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 and it was super cool. But we're standing there, and it's freezing, but we had to be there because we're dumb, and had to be on it again. And then someone's telling us, yeah, it's 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It's as fast as a Porsche. And you're like, yeah, that's going to be cool. We're going to go as fast as a Porsche, that's a cool VW kind of car, and it's a Porsche. I said that for Carl. But anyway, and I just remember it came back, all the, and how damn cold it was. I mean, it would have been better just jump in the water again. But we were, it was something else. But but it's
That
great.
ride was imposing.
It is fun.
It was imposing.
Well, it's always
and how long
interesting to
is
get
that?
on it right after it was broken.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Well, and
the
then-
lightning roller coaster, some woman flies off of it and more people get in line.
And the ride is what, 8 seconds?
You
And
know
we
that
were on
tidal
the
wave, the sound of it also in line. The constant
Yeah.
sound of that ride is still, I could still hear that ride because I was 10 years old when I started riding that. And when I rounded that corner to see it, you could see it at the park at that place. It just was there. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
And it was imposing and it was loud and scary.
And for not much of a ride, it's a pretty cool
Yeah.
ride though, for whatever it isn't. But anyway, well, thanks again. It was really great. And now I'm cold thinking about it.
Don.
I just one thing with the bumper car thing. Always wonderful fun to go bumping other people in the bumper cars. And to the German army in Berlin, when I was there, they set up one of those things. And when you bumped one of the German riders, they got very insulted and very upset. You weren't supposed to hit them. It was very odd, that difference in the reaction when you actually bumped the car. Huh. That was funny.
Nancy, do you have any bumper car postcards?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got a pretty stellar amusement park collection. I'm wondering what to do with it because it's just really great and it's all put together beautifully in albums and it's wonderful. I wish I had friends that wanted to look at it.
I've seen your collection.
Yeah, it's gotten better.
Well, I have to make a return visit then.
You bet.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great. I'd like to also, Nancy.
Good, 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 good.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Hal?
I'll try to be brief. But my folks owned an amusement park, Joyland Hillside Park here in Wichita, Kansas. You can Google it. And they built the park. It's my dad and my uncle built the park, and it opened in 1949. And then they sold it they sold the park in the 1970s. And then it ran for another 35 years to the people that had bought it. A whole family, was able to grow up there like I had. And then they tried to sell it unsuccessfully to 2 or 3 different buyers. And then a tornado came through and it literally picked up the big hill on the roller coaster and moved it and dropped it. I mean, and then there was vandalism. It's a horrible ending to what it was in the 60s or 70s.
You
But
sold it to Mr. Nelson, didn't you?
yes, yes, it
Yeah,
was
I
Stan
have
and
it.
Margaret. Stan
Yeah,
and
I
Margaret
understand.
Nelson bought the park from my folks and my uncle. But it was built by Philadelphia Toboggan Company. And you're talking about the bump'em cars. We had those at Joyland. They called them Dodgem cars. And then the Rolo plane, the two that Nancy was showing, and I saw an octopus ride in the background of that particular car. Great program. Thank you.
I have a postcard of Mr. Autoway's park.
Wow.
Let me see if I can find it. It'll take me a bit.
Wow. I was hoping Hal was going to bring up Joyland. I'm still
Well-
fascinated by that story when you said you picked up Little Richard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No,
let me
it was
find a way
Chuck
to
Berry.
get my
Chuck Berry, I mean, Chuck Berry.
Berry, yeah.
Yeah, it's just wow. Wow. That's a big story, Hal.
But what year was it when the roller coaster was no more?
I would say like 2000. I'd have to go back and see when that
Well, I'm sure Mike has been on the roller coaster.
sounded like it.
Oh yeah, he's been on the roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah.
Hal, do you have any postcards from Joyland?
Yes, I have all of them. That I think I do. There are a couple that were the giant cards that I've seen in other collections that I don't have, but I have all of the regular size, and we had a wonderful swimming pool. It was a wonderful park. It really was. They always said 40 acres of fun. Had the steam train going around the whole area of the park. It started with my granddad and my uncle and my dad building the Ottaway steam locomotive and train. It had three cars, and they had a real photo postcard of that with my granddad in the train, and they would send that out to other amusement parks trying to get them to buy it. And, if you were interested, then they would send you the brochure and all of that. But it was an amazing childhood that I had to be able to go to work with my dad every day. I picked up pop bottles. That was my job.
Wow.
That's back when, before premix. And so Coke and all the pop was in bottles that had to be picked up after a big picnic. And I would pick them up, and I got 2 cents a piece for each. A whole shell of them were 50 cents. And it was like free money, but that's how I supported my hobbies early on: stamp collecting and postal history and tokens and postcards. There. Okay,
There it is.
yes. That's my yes, right.
There it is.
That's one of the earlier parks. That's on East Harry at 1515 East Harry in Wichita. But it was a whole little half block, and the train went around the amusement. The Dodgem was there, not the roller coaster, but a Rolo plane, the merry-go-round, the Ferris wheel, several kid rides, and they also had live ponies. That was a big deal. Kind of an insurance man's nightmare or a lawyer's, you know. They did well with those. But yes, that was my National Postcard Week card one year. Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Glad
That's a
you
big
have
deal.
it.
Did you
That's
collect
a
the
big
bottle
deal.
caps?
Do I what?
Collect the bottle caps.
The bottle caps? No.
We used to collect those as kids. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting that Joyland basically almost starts from the train. The like Disney,
Yeah, it did. It did.
like
Started with
Disneyland,
the train
he
because they
was
built
fascinated
this
with the train. Yeah.
ride.
Yeah.
And then they had a real photo. I'll show it to you next time or
Yeah.
something. But
Like
it's,
Disney had the train, he was fascinated with trains, and
yeah,
the same
right,
idea.
right, right. And it says on the front, LA Ottaway. That's my, if somebody was talking about their name of their relative, my granddad, you wouldn't believe it, but he was Lester Ahimus Ottaway. And Ahimus, everyone says, well, where did they come up with that? And then they always say, oh, it's in the Bible. I'm not sure where, but anyway, that was his family story.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Nancy. Thank you, everybody. I think I'll
Bye,
sign off
Mike.
too.
See you
Yeah.
later.
Okay.
I think it's getting that time, everyone. We went a
Yeah.
little late, but I want to thank everyone for being here so late. And I want to just this is a wonderful thing, Nancy. You really delivered and you gave so much on this one. So thank you so much.